Good afternoon and welcome to today's Health and Safety webinar, Mental Health at Work. So today we will begin with our introductions, and our webinar today will be led by Dom Greenwood, our Senior Health and Safety Management Consultant. We will also be supported by a team in the background to help with any technical issues, and I shall also be supporting Dom in the background and field any questions that we have through today. If you do have any questions, then as always, then we encourage that you do so, and we ask that you put your questions into the GoToWebinar box where it asks you here, and we will field the questions at the end. We want to make this session as interactive as we would normally at our physical event, so we will be running a series of polls throughout the session as well. When we have a poll, it will appear on your screen and you just select the answer that is appropriate for you. Please note, to be able to participate in the polls, you'll need to ensure your screen is not in full screen mode, as for some reason GoToWebinar does not like that. And so this is what we will be covering today. So for our agenda, we'll be looking at an introduction to mental health, understanding the impact of mental health problems, first aid for mental health in the workplace, building a positive culture, 5 steps to mental well-being, and then we'll look at some useful links and how we can help support businesses with managing mental health. And then we'll show some webinars that we have coming up and how you can access training. So before we carry on, I'm going to hand over to Dom. Thank you.
There's a bit to get through. I'm hoping you're going to stay with me right till the end. As I say, we've got a massive contingent today. It's the biggest one we've ever done. So thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoy what we're going to do. I think it's important to broach what mental health actually is. We're hearing that term more and more, and it's really become, I hate to use the word popular, but more immersed into our daily and work lives over the last few years. But mental health obviously is anything that includes our emotional, psychological and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel and act. It also helps us determine how we handle stress, and stress is a natural part of our daily lives. Not to be confused with being a mental health condition, but it can contribute to a mental health condition. It's how we relate to other people and make choices and decisions. Mental health is there from the beginning and right through to the end of our lives, and it's important at every stage of life, from childhood, adolescence and through adulthood. I think you'll all will agree and have seen similar phrases and terminology before. Everyone has mental health. It's not a negative state, but it does get confused, and I think there's so much stigma around mental health. We're just using the word mental. You say, oh, he's mental, that's mental, is a negative connotation, but it does get confused with what mental illness actually is. So obviously the term mental illness covers a broad range of different mental health conditions or problems, and there's so many, and we're not going to have time really to go into those today. There is further training, and we cover up to 10, 12 different mental illness conditions on the training. But what we will talk about is how it changes our thoughts, emotions and behaviours and relationships with other people. As I said earlier on the call, we're living in a time where people are becoming far more isolated because of government restrictions that we know about. That is having a negative impact on people's mental health. Unfortunately, people are being made redundant, losing their jobs and having to work from home. We all know that schools are closed at the moment, so we're homeschooling, as am I, and everybody else who's on the call from HR Solutions as well. So that's having issues on people's mental health as well. Mental illnesses are associated with distress and problems functioning in our day-to-day lives, and a number of different triggers can be there. From it could be social, it could be in the workplace, it can be people's family as well. Not any one person is the same. I think it's really important to remember that if we've got any employers on the call, and I'm sure we do have, to not treat everybody the same with regards to a mental health condition. Everybody's individual, everybody's got different issues outside of the workplace, and also different stresses and strains from their family and from things they've gone through in the past, whether it be grief, losing a family member, an injury, an illness, an attack, for instance, there's a number of different triggers that can cause somebody to have a mental illness. Mental illness is treatable, and many people live with this every day and have very successful lives. And there's a number of very successful, famous people that have mental health issues that have those under control. Equally, we're hearing more and more about, unfortunately, how mental illness can then play the part in someone losing their lives, and that's very, very apparent in the celebrity world. And there's a number of, as we know, famous actors and film stars, pop stars, rock stars that are now no longer with us due to mental health issues. And as the slide says there, others struggle. Even the most successful people can have mental health issues. It's not always associated with fame, fortune, and money. There's so many different triggers that we're not going to have time to broach those today, but there's further things we can talk about. The impact of mental health problems on a day-to-day basis. Mental health can affect many areas of your life and have an impact on your family, social life, and relationships. I think we'd all agree with that, and at the moment that's becoming more and more apparent with regards to the national and global situation we all find ourselves in. But interestingly, mental health can then play a big part in your physical health. There's a big link between the two, and unfortunately mental health issues and illnesses can then manifest themselves in physical illnesses as well, with regards to other complaints and illnesses that somebody can then develop. And obviously in the workplace, that can then be problematic with regards to maybe the position that somebody could hold and the job or function or tasks that they need to do. Which leads us on to work. So not only is obtaining a job often difficult for somebody with mental health problems, but maintaining a job, should they either have them before they start the role or ongoing into the role, it can be more difficult when symptoms raise up with people in the workplace because of what they're being asked to do, the pressure, the strain, the stress, and obviously if they've got depression, anxiety, and other issues, that could then be problematic at work. And it's really thinking about, for the employers that we've got on the call, on the webinar, what you've got in place to help support people with regards to these people who have mental health issues. And just thinking about education, we know that there's far more pressure on students at the moment to not only live away, but also because of the lockdowns. There's money and financial pressures as well. So studying may be more difficult if someone's got a mental health condition, and often students don't reach their true potential. And again, for parents that are on the webinar who may have students as sons or daughters who are either going away this year or maybe have been away over the last couple of years, it might be worth thinking about how the current pandemic and how the current lockdowns would and could be affecting anybody that is living away. Again, thinking about people that are driving to and from the workplace, socially as well. Mental health conditions often can play a part with people driving, and obviously medications can make people be less alert maybe. So it's just worth thinking about, if you know somebody in the workplace who is on any kind of, not any kind of medication, but certainly some mental health medications, it's worth thinking about what they actually have to do with regards to their job. Are they driving? Are they meeting clients? Probably not so much at the moment, as we know we're all more home-based, but as and when we hopefully go back to a more normal working pattern, it's worth thinking about whether or not that could affect their driving abilities. Thinking about being parents and with children, that can affect relationships, and obviously we know about different medications that can affect pregnancy, and we've got things like, you know, PTSD that we know about, and obviously with regards to pregnancy as well. And I think the big one that we can all think about and maybe can have a massive effect on is stigma, and certainly stigma in the workplace. I used a couple of terms earlier. And I'd ask you to think about maybe some of the language that you associate with mental health, and I think there's probably a number of words that you would instantly think about, mental being one, nuts being another, and there's a whole load of others that you hear on a daily basis, and I certainly do. I'm still working with clients because I'm looking after fire safety and health and safety in some big organisations as we speak, and I'm hearing that kind of language in communal areas and also in workshops and factories, because it has unfortunately become part of everyday life. So think about how stigma can create barriers for people to seek help. They may not feel like they want to talk to anybody. They may not feel like they want to talk to you as an employer, purely because they might feel that you're going to either not take them seriously, or they're going to then be seen as an outcast in the workplace. Would they then be the first person to be made redundant, disciplined, or told to go home, for instance, because they've got some sort of mental illness? They're not trusted. They might feel that you feel they can't do their job well properly. So trying to keep the stigma to a very bare minimum. We all like fun and games at work and a laugh and joke, but if it's at the expense of a condition, I think that's something that's got to be stamped out. So just think about that, obviously, in the workplace. So I'm hoping that's sort of giving you an introduction into kind of what mental health is about, and some of the different problems and conditions that maybe surround that. We've got our first question coming up, so I think Victoria will take that over from here. But I'll see you shortly on the next part.
Yeah, brilliant. So we're going to launch our poll, and it will be to ask you whether you think mental health is well managed in your workplace. So you'll shortly see the poll come up on the screen, and I'll give everybody a little bit of time to answer that poll. And please select your answer. Hopefully, can you see that okay, Dom?
I can only see the question I've just put up, but that could be because of the way I'm
Here
displaying
we go.
my...
Yeah. Apologies for that. So do you think mental health is well managed in your workplace? Okay, we'll leave it a few more moments. And I'm going to close the poll. Let's see what we have as the answer. So, Dom, we have 61% say that they do think mental health is well managed in the workplace, and 39% do not.
Okay, that's great, and thanks for giving us your honest opinions there. The polls are anonymous, so please do give us your honest opinion. So we're not going to come back to you or contact anybody with regards to your answers, but it's good that 61% feel that it's well managed. Obviously, it'd be great to see that at 80, 90, and obviously 100%. And I think that would be all of our calls to action to try and improve how mental health is managed in the workplace. As we know, there's a number of tools available. We're going to go through some shortly. There's a number of other tools available online, and obviously support given. So it'd be great to think that if we run a similar webinar in maybe 3, 6, 9 months' time, then maybe that 61% has moved. And for the people that have said no, I guess it's just thinking about why you think it's not well managed. Is it something that's not really talked about in the workplace? Is it something that you don't feel that the senior management team or senior leadership team are really taking seriously? Is it you're just not aware of it in the workplace, and that it would be almost a taboo subject to kind of talk about? So I think it's just worth thinking about why you feel that way, and maybe some things you can do to move that to a yes. Can you see my next screen, Victoria, if you're still on there? Victoria's gone as well. So I hope you can. Okay, great. No, fine. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're just going to think about some tools that an employer can use to help mental health in the workplace. And I think the question is, have you got anybody that you can identify who is good at listening to people? I'm pretty sure you know your workforces, your teams, and who you've got. Is there someone that can keep calm in a stressful and emotional situation? And is there somebody that would potentially be looking for some kind of new challenge in the new year? And somebody that you trust, and someone that, more importantly, the workers, and if you don't call them workers and you call them colleagues or partners, somebody that the workforce would trust, somebody who in themselves is trustworthy, professional, and eager to help people. And, if the answers to those questions is yes, well, you may have just found yourself the perfect candidate to be a mental health first aider. not to be confused with a general first aider, which is obviously more about injuries and illnesses and keeping someone kind of in a good place until emergency services arrive. But this is very similar, but on a mental health basis and level. There's an identified qualification out there which we can deliver, and there's a number of other providers that do, which will help gear up somebody and upskill somebody to understand mental health and what they can do to support the workforce with regards to somebody that's got a condition. So it's worth thinking about if you've got somebody that could be good at listening to people, talking to people, they're trusted by the senior team, but also the workforce, and they're professional and eager to help people. Well, you might just have found somebody that you could then upskill. So what is mental health first aid? Well, it's the first aid for mental health, which is the initial support provided to a person that could be experiencing some kind of mental health problem. And as we know, there are a number of mental health issues, and on the course we probably go into at least maybe 10 if not 12 different conditions, and a number of those you'll have heard of, which could be anything from sort of from psychosis to an eating disorder, stress, anxiety, depression, and anything in between. Really, there's a number of others. But this mental health first aider would try and identify the cause and try and keep that person talking to them and signposted to a number of different outlets that could help them then either manage the condition or alleviate the condition, with the aims of that mental health first aider being preserving the life of that person. We need to think about how this person is then going to go home and potentially live with a mental health issue when you can't see them in the workplace. Is there any support we can put in for that person when they're in the home setting? And obviously at the moment we know that some of our businesses are closed or they're either working from home, but we do know that manufacturing, certain retail, food processing, emergency services are still very much operating as they were, because they're keeping our country going. So the first, as we know, aim would be to preserve that person's life if they could be a danger to themselves or others. Can they kind of try and alleviate any kind of suffering by giving them some initial and immediate comfort and support? And that could just be talking to that person about why they feel the way they feel. And it could be signposting them to other organisations. It could be providing different solutions in their job role. Can they prevent the condition from getting any worse, and also move it into a more serious problem? And could they potentially promote some kind of good recovery from mental health by signposting them and obtaining some sort of professional support? So there's 4 very key aims of the mental health first aider. There's a few different roles and responsibilities, and they are definitely seen as a main point of contact for anybody in the organisation, whether it's a senior leadership team member or someone more on the ground floor or the workforce that's having a mental health issue or problem. They would identify the signs and symptoms. They're going to be upskilled and they're going to be uptrained to identify different signs and symptoms, not to be associated with just general stress around the workplace, because people do display different symptoms. A real big one is this supportive conversation and the ability to have a supportive conversation, and just to know what language and questions to use with regards to that supportive conversation and how to structure that and how to listen and how to feed back information. To be able to listen non-judgmentally and provide reassurance to the person that is displaying those symptoms, and then assessing that level of risk. Could they be at risk of any kind of health self-harm, or would they be putting themselves in any kind of danger to themselves or other people? Knowing where the professional outlets are, and that could be anywhere from a local counselling service you've got in and around your workplace to a more professional organisation that could be found online, one of the national ones that you'll have all heard of. It could be that you've got an in-house counsellor. It could be that you could bring somebody on. So there's a number of different ways they could be signposted to professional support. A big one again, and I did broach it earlier in the webinar, is to try and reduce mental health stigma at work, challenge stigma, discrimination and bullying, and unfortunately with regards to discrimination and bullying, those two topics alone can lead to a mental health condition, stroke, illness, just because of the isolation and the discrimination that person could be thinking and feeling. As I said before, we all like a laugh, joke and have fun at work, but not at the expense of somebody that could be suffering. So it's reducing that mental health stigma and just really educating people in the workforce that it's not the right thing to use that language. And can they promote a positive culture in the workplace? And working with the senior management team, senior leadership team, think of initiatives and ways of promoting that positive culture. And then obviously call in appropriate emergency services if needed. And above all, probably maintaining confidentiality, record keeping, and following up. It's a very responsible position, and there are a number of different, paper trail. It does link very well into the HR function. So health and safety and HR are very much aligned with the mental health function. So there's a number of different roles and responsibilities that the mental health first aider we would want to upskill to try and support the organisation. This next slide really is just an overview, and I'm not really going to go into any of these within great detail, but what I would say is mental health, unlike things like health and safety, appears in a number of different legislative and regulatory guidance and laws, really. So you can see straight away you've got the NICE guidance on there, which is the National Institute for Health and Care. You've also got things like the Mental Health Act, Health and Safety at Work Act, the Equality Act, Mental Capacity Act, and a number of others. What I'm not saying is you should download those and read those from top to bottom, but I think a working knowledge of certainly, obviously, the Health and Safety at Work Act, Mental Health Act, and some of the others would be worth looking at to see if your organisation is aligned to some of the guidance that's being put out there. And there's so much more guidance that is now available. Maybe you sign up to different forums. Maybe you visit the HSE website from time to time. There's a section on there now. Public Health England is on there as well. The NHS itself is on there as well. So it's worth having a working knowledge of some of these different guidance and regulations. So just some stats really on mental health, and some of these, there's some big numbers on here which may surprise you, but these are all taken from the HSE survey that's done every couple of years, and this is the 2018 to 2020 one that you can obviously look at yourself, and there's a reference at the bottom. But just shy of 600,000 workers suffered from work-related stress, depression, or anxiety in that one particular year, which is obviously a massive figure. Interestingly, 239,000 workers then suffered from a new case of work-related stress. So if we add those two figures together, we're approaching nearly 1 million people, which is a big number that are either taken out of the workforce and could be working for you, which leads on to 15.5 million working days are lost due to work-related stress, depression, or anxiety. That's obviously a burden on the government, but also on your organisation if you're trying to produce things, manufacture things, or you've got a business, a service, or a product. So it's thinking about how you could potentially engage with anybody who's got a mental health condition and try and keep them working as well. So working days lost to stress, depression, or anxiety accounted for around 57% of all working days lost due to ill health. So interestingly, over half the people that were off in that year were suffering from a mental health condition, with the other half being things like maybe a fall from height, maybe an accident, maybe a slip, trip, or fall. So nearly 60% of all people that are off in that one particular year had a mental health issue. The main cause of work-related stress, depression, or anxiety was due to people's workload, which accounted for 44% of all cases. And I think we all look for additional responsibility, and we all want to develop. But I think sometimes maybe the workloads need to be looked at, deadlines, and what we're actually asking our staff to do. Is it reasonable? And I think it's just worth looking into that. 1 in 6 people experience a mental health problem in the workplace. Women in full-time employment are nearly twice as likely to have a common mental health problem as full-time employed men. And evidence suggests that 12.7% of all sickness absence days in the UK can be attributed to a mental health condition, with the source being the Health and Safety Executive. So, please look at the summary statistics for Great Britain. There's a big report on there. You can download it, you can look at it, and it'll give you some really good stats that you could potentially share with your staff. Maybe there's different ones you can pull out as well, which would be a good thing to do. But what I would like you to do is just take 60 seconds. This is not a poll. This is just something I want you to consider. We've already put a similar poll question up, but I want you to think about: is mental health taken seriously where I work? How can my workplace improve? And is there a mental health process where I work? It's not a poll. The line will go silent, which might be uncomfortable for some people, but I just want you to have some space for yourself. Just broach those 3 questions. I'm not going to ask for any feedback, but I think they're really, really powerful. I think it'd be great if you could take those back into maybe your next team meeting, board meeting, maybe run a similar exercise with your health and safety committee or your HR committee, or however you guys are set up. So is mental health taken seriously where I work? And if it isn't, why not? Is there a process where I work, and how can my workplace improve? I'm just going to give you 60 seconds just to broach those couple of questions. Okay, just some final thoughts there, the last few seconds. Please keep those 3 questions close to you. I think it's important. I think if you can go back into your workplace and maybe broach some of those with your SLT, SMTs, it could just improve the culture. And we're going to go straight into another poll. I'm going to hand back to Victoria.
Thank you.
The question we're going to ask you this time is, do you think there's a positive culture where you work? And I'll hand over to Victoria to run the poll.
Exactly. Thank you, Dom. I've just launched the poll for you to all take a few moments and answer. And the question is, do you think there's a positive culture where you work? Yes or no? So I'll give everybody a few moments to do that. So I'll just wait a few more moments, Dom.
Okay.
I think that's most people that have answered. So I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Here we go. So you should see on your screen now. So Dom, we have 83% of our attendees who do think there is a positive culture where they work, and 17% say they do not.
That's fantastic, and that's, you know, music to my ears, really, that such a high proportion of the delegates feel that that they either work in a positive workplace or there is one, which is amazing. So the next couple of slides really is aimed at employers or maybe team managers. Just thinking about the icon at the bottom there from Michael Page, who you'll all be aware of, is a massive, well-respected recruitment company. But 1 in 3 UK employees would not feel comfortable talking to their manager about mental health problems for fear of being judged. And I think that's really, really positive, powerful. Sorry, that potentially is the case. Good mental health and well-being is one of the most valuable assets to any organisation. I'm really chuffed that 83% of you feel that is the case. There's just a few steps that employers could take to improve the mental health culture of the workplace. And if you've already got some of these in place, and apologies to repeat that, but it might be that some of the 83% might want to put additional stuff in. But do you have a mental health action plan and policy? I'm working with a number of clients at the moment that don't, so we've got something developed, and it'd be great for you guys to all have a mental health action plan and a policy that you don't just get out when someone says that they're struggling, that it's immersed into the business, everybody's aware of it, and it's kind of trained in from the word go. Are you looking at mental health training? So provided mental health training, which could be for, as we've already talked about, the mental health first aid, but it could also just be awareness training for everybody, just to look out for signs and symptoms, maybe a 2, 3 hour, 4 hour workshop rather than a 1 or 2 day course. There's a number of other e-learning tools available as well, which we could help you with. It could be that people's job roles need to be looked at, and I think obviously through maybe one-to-ones, monthly and quarterly reviews and annual appraisals, which may or may not be happening at the moment because of where we are. people's job roles can be accommodated for new responsibilities and maybe things they want to do. Have you publicised the organisation's commitment to mental health? Does everybody know about it? Some of the clients I'm working with, they haven't done that, but they've found that since they have done that, people are far more open and they're talking to each other, and it's not seen as a taboo subject. And then think about maybe evaluating the causes of mental health, ill health around the workplace. There could be a reason why people are feeling the way they're feeling. It might just mean tweaking some of the processes and some of the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think really a dedicated space, I'm very keen on a dedicated space for health and safety information. It could be the mental health, and it could just be a poster, it could just be some links, it could be some signposting, that it's just enough information to give people, workers, staff to go to, that they can maybe just access some stuff that you've provided. So a central place for maybe health and safety, but also for mental health information. A really powerful thing is senior managers, maybe board members, maybe senior leaders, getting around the workplace and talking to staff. You know, do you all know your staff? And I appreciate there's some really big companies out there with multi-departments, multi-buildings, different sites, but I think it's really important for staff that are more of a ground level, maybe that are doing the jobs, that are seeing the product or services go out of the building, that they know the group managers, the senior managers, the senior leaders. Go and say hello, shake the hand as and when you can do, give them some praise, acknowledgement, and some feedback. So I think it's really important and powerful that employees know the employers and senior managers. Obviously, monitoring employee performance and providing recognition is always good, and I don't always think it's a bonus that people want. It's a monetary bonus. It could just be something that you're going to give them. One of my clients is give an extra day's holiday, which I think is great. Whether it be vouchers, whether it be an experience, whether it be money, that's for you guys to decide. But some kind of reward for their achievements. And I think really introducing networks and initiatives through your kind of company staff platforms. And again, every company is slightly different. You know, you might have some sort of intranet system. You might have a news bulletin that goes around. You might have a WhatsApp group. You might have a community. Going to work for you to reach as many people as you can with what you're going to be doing going forward. It could be that you can get some health services coming in with regards to things like return to work. You could ask companies to come in, or a counsellor to come in and showcase what they can do, and it could be on an anonymous basis that staff can then access that. It could be that there's an employee action scheme that they could also use as well. And it could be that you involve employees in decision making. You know, have you got a group that's really made up of maybe two members of staff from each department, from maybe a cleaner, a factory operative, a supervisor, a manager, a director, and whatever other departments you have, that then move forward with different parts of the business. Obviously, the strategy and the really top level stuff is more the board and senior SLT. But there could be other things that you could have a group decision on, and they could then go back and inform their departments and their groups as well. I think one of the biggest things that you need to do is not just give it lip service, believe in it. So whatever you guys are putting in place, actually believe in what you're putting in place. Certainly a mental health risk assessment would be the absolute minimum you'd want to be doing. Again, we can help you with that. There's a number of different ones available online as well. Followed up by maybe a stress risk assessment and what we call a WAP, which is a workplace wellness action plan, which covers a number of different areas, from mental health to stress, to job roles, identifying causes, and also different symptoms and what you can do. So all of these kind of documents make up a suite which you should think about putting into place. If you can bring a counsellor on board, which we talked about, you wouldn't employ that counsellor, but they're on the end of a phone. You can get them in at short notice. I was working for a fitness chain prior to coming to HR Solutions, and we had a death, unfortunately, at one of the sites. It was a member of staff that unfortunately had a cardiac arrest and lost his life. And a local counselling service basically based themselves in the workplace for five or 6 days and spoke to staff, family, and members, and were absolutely fantastic. So having them on the end of a phone to do that Should anything happen, whether it be a workplace accident, whether it be a mental health condition, you've then got the ability to call on somebody who you got support. I think we're doing this at the moment, but allowing greater flexibility for people who need time off. We're all working from home, or a lot of us are, with childcare needs and homeschooling. I think all the employers I've spoken to have been really, really good and helpful with that. So just thinking about how we can continue that as and when we go more back to normal. Work-life balances, different events that you can hold that promote positive mental health. Meditation apps and online mental health resources. There's now a plethora of tech available which will help support mental health, and we're going to run through some at the end. And again, we're talking about this mental health champion, which could be the mental health first aider, but having a group or a mental health champion, I think I'm all for champions for different things. So it'd be good to have that as a central resource. And something that a company I worked with a few years ago was they offered a new language to anybody that wanted to learn a new language. And I'm sure some of you are now smirking, but I think out of the 32 staff, I think 12 actually decided to go and learn Spanish. And the company paid for a Spanish tutor to come in every Monday or Tuesday. I think in the end, about 8 of them saw the course through and spoke Spanish to each other, which was great. But it doesn't have to be Spanish, it can be anything. But I think a new life skill that the company is going to believe in is really important. So if there's something that the staff would like to do, I think, why not support it and see if you can actually make it happen either in the workplace or online. I think building a positive mental health culture for employees is as important. I don't think the employers should just always look to the employers and the SLT, SMT to make things happen. I think they should try and educate themselves on mental health, but have you guys provided the opportunities to do that? Is the information available? Are the links there? Are the handouts there, the booklets, whatever it might be? Again, make effort to talk to different colleagues. I'm all for talking to the people that you don't know in the workplace. We all tend to gravitate towards the people that are a little bit like us. We see ourselves in them. We may support the same football team, go to the same places, watch the same TV shows, whatever it may be. Go and talk to the people that you don't know. Introduce yourself and say, how you doing, what you doing today, and that may be putting people really outside of their comfort zone. But talking to different groups of people is really a good way of seeing how they feel, and they may just open up to you. Don't be afraid to ask someone about your own thoughts and feelings, and ask for help. I think it's important to, if you are struggling, to talk to people. The biggest thing we can do is talk. But it's having the outlet in the workplace where you feel comfortable and trusted to do that. If there's workplace politics, try and challenge it. None of us want to be the person at work that is the troublemaker. But obviously, if there are things going on, whether it's stigma in the workplace, if there's workplace politics, be the bigger person. Maybe talk to that person or bring a manager on board. But it's through fear of reprisal that we don't do that. And I think it's important that we try and challenge that at the earliest opportunity. Everybody's got different opinions, cultures and beliefs, and we work in a very multicultural society, as we know. And I think if you all look at your workplaces and your work staff structures, you'll see that you've got that, and it's making sure that we are paying as much attention to everybody as we can, but also showing an interest and respecting everybody's opinions, cultures and beliefs. Building friendships with colleagues, as we all know, and as and when we can do, is trying to meet up outside of the working environment, which unfortunately at the moment we can't do, which is a problem. But it's thinking about how you guys keep in touch with your staff when they're at home. Is it a weekly Zoom call? Is it a monthly company update meeting? Is there a WhatsApp group? Can you send round stuff? It's trying to keep everybody engaged and keeping their mental health as positive as possible. Make the most out of lunch breaks. What do we all do at lunch breaks? I'm sure many of you are saying, "Oh, don't take one." That in itself is not a good thing to do. I'm probably as bad as everyone else. Certainly, when I'm in a head office, I don't tend to take a working lunch break, but I'm trying to do that more. Could just go for a walk around the estate. Try and do something different for that, maybe 30, 40 minutes. Talk to different people as and when I can. So think about how you can make the most out of your lunch break. Charity events are always good. Challenges, we're seeing loads and loads of those online at the moment. We saw the Captain Tom stuff early part of last year, and there's other ones that have happened more recently. But it's, you know, can you get behind something that involves everybody to do something? We're currently doing something called the Walk to Gambia, which is an HR solutions one, because we're supporting a school and charity in Gambia, because one of our directors is heavily involved with that, and we're all getting behind it. You don't have to do that, but is there something you can do of a similar nature? Take a break and try and use your annual leave. At the moment, we can't go on holiday, but at least try and not, you know, use your annual leave, do something different. If you can't go away, what can you do? Is that you can do some stuff at home, set a challenge, have a staycation in your garden or in your lounge, but try and do something different with your families that takes you away and just gives you a different headspace just for that 3, 4, 5, 6 days, whatever that might be. Time's precious, as we all know. We've all the pandemic has affected us all in different ways. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have lost people, as we saw the grim milestone that we reached yesterday. So think about your work-life balances. And when you're not at work, maybe turn your phone off for a certain period of time. Very difficult for us to be away from those little black or grey devices now. And if you think back 10, 12 years, we weren't like that. Facebook and social media and different platforms, they just weren't around, so we didn't do it. So how can we get back to talking to people? And maybe of an evening, just turn them off and spend more time with your children, and maybe only check your phones maybe once an hour, once every couple of hours. And I'm sure many of you are thinking, crikey, I'm not sure I can do that, but I think it's a really, really positive thing if you can. I think it also shows your family members how you can commit to them more without being tied to your phone all the time. And sleeping is really, really important. Make sure you've got a good sleep pattern and listen to what your body's telling you. We all know the benefit of sleeping well, eating well. We don't always do it. I certainly don't all the time, but it's, again, something I'm trying to do more of this year, sleeping well and eating well, to try and feel as good as I possibly can, certainly with some of the constraints that are on us at the moment. There is definitely an impact of a positive mental health culture in the workplace. It's if everybody's talking about it and if everybody's reaching a common goal, staff are more likely to disclose their problems should they have any. And there's certainly a correlation between a positive culture and productivity, with everybody feeling trusted, more acknowledged, praised and encouraged, and higher staff morale. Guess what? You'll be the company that people want to go and work for. That's the happy company that we want to go and work for. So you'll attract new job talent. The company starts to give out a bit of an aura, and everybody's talking about it and obviously posting about it online. So all of a sudden, you start to become the company that people want to go and work for. And you'll know from family members where people have stayed for 20, 30, 40 years. There's a reason they've stayed there, because they're doing this kind of stuff. You'll get an enhanced business reputation. And again, if you're meeting clients, if you're maybe insurance, whatever that might be, they might start asking you about what your culture is. So it'd be good to know if you've got these policies, procedures, and this mindset in place. We know that the correlation with absence and staff turnover, you know, if we've got people that are leaving for whatever reason it might be, let's find out what that is. People do leave naturally. There's a natural churn in organisations. But if it's higher than usual, let's find out why. Let's talk to people and see if we can find out what the problems are. And again, that then has a knock-on effect to reduce business costs, because you're not having to employ staff to do extra hours or get other people in who have to cover those roles. And again, what can you do to help yourself? And some of these we've talked about, but you know, and I'm sure you know a number of these. But exercising, healthy diets, sleeping, read books or listen to audiobooks, music, skills, outside activities, hobbies, breaks and holidays, community volunteering. Certainly at the moment, we've got the vaccine hubs that are popping up everywhere. I've got a few friends that have volunteered, and they're seeing it as a massive positive. They're getting so much out of helping people and just chaperoning people into those rooms where they're getting the jab. Think about doing something like that. Visit your GP if you've got any physical or mental health concerns. I think that is your first port of call. But again, make time for yourself if it's only 30 minutes. It could be at the start of the day, it could be at the end of the day, it could be a lunch break, but think about what you want to do. And that's probably the time when you can reflect. Above all, talk, whether it's to other people, family, friends in the workplace, or somebody anonymous. It could be that you can talk to somebody online if there's a problem, or you can help people, signpost people in the workplace. Don't be hard on yourself. That's really important. Just think about whether or not you're being too hard on yourself. And I was definitely one of those people that was like, use the language like man up, grow a pair, until I then went and became a mental health trainer a couple of years ago. And it very much changes your opinion of mental health conditions and how people can struggle. So don't be too hard on yourself, because I think that's one of the biggest things that people do. But take responsibility. If you're not feeling very well and you're struggling, think about, well, how can I improve? What can I do? Who can I talk to? So take some responsibility. And I think use tech. There's a nice icon there, 23 mental health apps to download. And I have downloaded some of these, and they're really good. So we've all got smartphones. There's a number of different mental health apps that you can, from the very basic to the very detailed, which you can put in your emotions, thoughts and feelings, what you've eaten, how much sleep you've had, and it'll give you a whole list of different things that you can think about getting involved with. And interestingly, there are kind of 5 steps to mental health that the NHS recommends that you look at, which are evidenced in research, to which I connect, be active, keep learning, give to others, and be mindful. And we've kind of covered a number of those different ones informally over the last few slides, but I'm conscious of time and we are getting towards the end of the webinar, but certainly connect. And at the moment, that is obviously virtually. The picture there is where we all want to be again, going to a coffee shop with friends and family, having a coffee, maybe a pint at the end of the week or whatever it might be, and we can't do it. We know we can't do it. That in itself is having an impact on people's mental health. But think about connecting with people around you. We're all using Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp, video, whatever it might be. Maybe structuring a weekly call. I've had to do that with my in-laws and family because I can't see them. So it's a weekly call where we just get the whole family together and talk. Be active. And at the moment, again, unfortunately, that is at home. We know we can't go to the gym. We know we can't go to the local leisure centre, swimming pool, whatever it might be. But I don't think you have to. I come from the fitness industry where I worked for 25 years and thoroughly enjoyed it and love that industry. But there's so much more you can do outside and at home in your gardens, or even indoors. And we only just last week saw the images of the tennis players in the Australian Open that were hitting a tennis ball against the wall in their hotel rooms. Not advocating that you do that. I think you might get in trouble at home, but I think there's a number of things that you can do and sort of adapt to become more healthy at home. Keep learning. The picture there is obviously of a cooking class, and we can't do that, but there are so many opportunities online. Maybe this is the time to think about new skills, not necessarily retraining for work, but there's so many more things you can become involved with. Learning new skills can give you not only a sense of achievement, but also new confidence, meet new people and learn different things. So have a think about maybe offering that to staff, but also think about yourself and what you might want to think about learning. And give to others. We talked about it earlier, NHS, homeless and the vaccine. There's a number of different charities volunteering, whether it be actually in person or out of the workplace, that you can do that with. The last one is be mindful. Be aware of how you feel at the present moment, your thoughts and feelings, your body and all that's around you. It can positively change the way you feel about life and how you can approach challenges. So just think about being mindful and how that can certainly help you as well. And the last kind of page that I'm going to talk about, there's a number of links there, and if you want to just take a picture of that page, maybe on your phones, and also this, the whole webinar will be available to listen back to on YouTube, but also on our website. There's a number of different mental health conditions that you'll see there, from anxiety to bipolar, but also there's Mind, the Samaritans, and a number of other references that you can look at. You've also got a couple of text ones as well, which I think are really important. You can text out Shout, which is the crisis text line, but also you've got the Samaritans and Mind. Is there a notice board that you can put something like this on, that you can just signpost people at work to look at if there's a problem, so that they feel that you're supporting them? So it's just a page there on useful links. I'm going to pass back to Victoria for our final poll of the day. Actually, it's not our final poll, it's our penultimate poll. But the question this time would be, do you think you need more support, help or guidance for mental health at work? And I'll hand back to Victoria.
Brilliant, thank you, Dom, and let's launch this poll for you. So coming up on the screen now, And if you want to take a few moments, answer the question, do you think you need more support, help or guidance for mental health at work? I'll leave it a few more moments. Okay. I think we'll close it now. Okay, so let's close the poll and share the results. So here we go, Dom. We have 55% say that they do need more support, help or guidance for mental health at work. 45% do not.
Okay, that's interesting. So we're sort of very split both sides, and again, for the people that did say yes, we're more than happy to talk to you, send you resources, and there's a number of different ones you can get from either ourselves or other agencies. And for the people that have said no, that's again great. And I'm imagining a lot of you will be in that 83% we talked about earlier that have got really good policies, procedures, and a positive mental health culture in the workplace. Here's how we can help, and I think the first one is we can offer nationally accredited training. We can do it in your place of work, or we've got delegated courses as well. We can offer maybe a 4-hour workshop or a nationally accredited course as well, which could be the mental health first aid level 2. We hold those in Kettering, but equally we can hold those in the workplace. We can also help you with policies, procedures and documents on a number of topics, but obviously geared around mental health, stress, depression, anxiety, the workplace action plan, and also stress policies and stuff like that. I also offer a free 30-minute call, which I'm happy to say that quite a number of people take me up on after these webinars, and I'm happy to chat, as you've probably gathered, for the last hour. But more than happy to talk to anyone, whether it's about health and safety, fire, but also mental health issues as well. Our training, we've obviously had to put back because we have because of the new restrictions, but we're hoping they're going to go ahead in March. We've already got a good number of bookings for those. So we're running level 2 mental health first aid on Monday the 8th of March. Then we're running first aid itself the following Monday, health and safety level 2 the Monday after that, and then fire safety the Monday after that. So there's 4 really good courses there. COVID secure environment, we're only allowing 10 people on those training courses, social distance, and for £109 you get refreshments, which is your coffee, tea, lunch, all your books and resources, your exam fee and certificate, and you get to spend the day with me, which is, I think, absolutely worth £109. So hopefully we'll see those bookings come through, and there's the links on our website, and also we can send those out if you're interested. We do have one further web poll that I'm going to get Victoria to.
Yep, and we've got some questions through as well. So let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay. Just going to get the. Here we go. Right. So if you're okay, Dom, I'm just thinking of time. Before we do this final poll, I'm just going to put some of the questions that have come through. What we'll do is we'll go through a few that we've got here. We've had lots and lots of questions come through, so thank you. And what we'll do is once the webinar has finished, I'll arrange for the questions to be sent over to Dom, and I'll ask Dom to give a response to the questions that have come through that we can't answer. So let's have a look at the first question. Is a mental health first aider a sole position within a company, or is it an additional task for an employee?
Good question, and it's somebody that already works for you, because as you'll appreciate, it wouldn't be a full-time position, and if it was a full-time position, I'd argue what kind of tasks people are doing. So the companies I'm working with at the moment, it would be somebody that's been identified by maybe through an appraisal scheme or through a development scheme or through senior management that they'd like some extra responsibility. They get put on a course, which is generally a level 2 course. There is a level 3, which is over 2 days. Level 2 is over 1 day. and they then get upskilled to understanding some of the topics we've been talking about today and talk to the staff and be a central resource. So it's a existing person that you would upskill and uptrain that can then talk to staff and colleagues. I'm hoping that answered the question.
Yeah, brilliant. And is an employee assistance program, EAP, a legal requirement for big businesses?
I think maybe Victoria, you might be better to answer that than me.
Yeah, so an employee assistance program, from an absence management perspective, then it's always best practice and encouraged to offer something like that to your employees. It's not a legal requirement. There's no statutory obligations on an employer to have one in place. But what it is, it's about actually looking from the benefits of offering that, what it can help do, so it can help retain employees and avoid or prevent some absences from occurring. If people are already off and need to use it, then it can help it can help facilitate perhaps a quicker return if they're getting the access through that support through that access. So it's not a statutory requirement, but it is something that we would encourage employers look to offer if they're able to.
More good practice. More good practice.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one last question, because we're 10 minutes after 1, so let's have a look here. So is there a conflict of roles between a mental health first aider being HR? So I guess undertaking those two roles. I mean, I've got, I suppose, a thought on that, but do you have any thoughts?
I think my initial thought would be no. I don't know whether you'd agree, Victoria.
Yeah, I think that there's no statutory obligation from a mental health first aider, so it's about how that organisation wants to bring that role in place. I guess it's how they see that role operating in the business. Of course, when you have your HR hat on, quite often you're having counselling discussions, one-to-one, kind of conversations with employees who want to talk to you in confidence. And I guess having the skills and the training in under your belt can help in that conversation. Yep. Whether there's a conflict, at the end of the day, HR is often that sounding board and just for somebody to let off steam in many instances, isn't it? And I suppose if they are a first aider as well, I guess it can add to, although they can do that role quite effectively without being a mental health first aider. So yep. So I think actually it probably sits quite nicely in the HR capacity, but it's not a necessity to have that. So what I'll do, Don, we've had quite a few good questions come in, quite lengthy ones. So if it's okay, I'll get them sent on to you for you to respond back.
Yeah,
separately after the webinar. Brilliant, thank you. So now what I'd like to do is just bring the webinar to a close. Can I just check you can see the right screen now? Let's go here. So let's have a look. Sorry, bear with me. Let me get to the appropriate page, and what we'll do is we'll bring the webinar to a close. So what I would like to do now is, while we've got you on the call still, is just let you know about some of our future up and coming webinars that we do have, and also just run a quick poll here, which is to do with whether, let's launch here now. If you'd like us to follow up with, can you see the poll? I don't know if you can see it.
I can
yes, we can see it.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. So if you'd like us to follow up with any further support in terms of whether that's mental health training, other health and safety training, HR training, or other services. So I'll give you a few moments to answer that. Okay, thank you. And remember, if you're doing the poll, you can't be in full screen. So if anybody's having any problems, make sure you're not in the full screen mode. For some reason, GoToWebinar doesn't like it. Okay, and I think we're there. Just going to close it. So thank you for those who have voted, and that's brilliant to hear. So that's useful because obviously it just gives us some insight into how we can provide help moving forward. Okay. Let's get back to the closing the webinar. So I said a moment ago about letting you know about some upcoming webinars. We have one coming up February, which is about our support for the Gambia and what we're doing, working with Crispin Roads to help that charity. And also early February, we have an Interesting Cases 2020 and an employment law update after Brexit, which I'll be running just to sort of go through some interesting information there. And then we have joined up with Improve e-learning to bring you a webinar on the 18th about how to bridge the development gap, because obviously we've been in this pandemic for almost a year now, and obviously as a impact of that, perhaps employee development has been neglected somewhat. So this webinar will look to see how we can bridge those gaps. And for those of you that perhaps remember last year in April, we were due to have the IR35 changes come into force. They were put on hold, but they are coming into force on the 6th of April this year. So I'll be running a webinar on the 18th of February. And we also have lots of other health and safety and HR webinars. So we have the health and safety at work safeguarding webinar that Dom will be running on the 24th. And I'm actually going to pick up how to deal with the mental health absences from an absence management point of view, so more from the HR side. That's going to be on the 11th of March, so hopefully you can join me for that. And then we have a further health and safety at work, general fire safety webinar, also in March. And in April, we have one on data and GDPR, or UK GDPR, as we have now, and that's around our compliance and the implications after Brexit. We just want to let you know about some of the measures we have in place to offer support. So like Dom has outlined, we are able to offer mental health training and for you to get that first aid qualification to help promote that positive mental health culture within the workplace. We can also provide help and support to you in establishing an employee assistance programme. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it's not a statutory requirement, but actually one that is encouraged, and it has very many positive benefits to it. And so we can help your organisation look at developing an EAP programme. We also have access to the engagement multiplier, and that's a tool that helps business leaders quickly understand how their teams are adjusting to working remotely, and ultimately for supporting being at work in this pandemic and returning to work. And there's access to a free trial. And then also we are able to give access to our newsletter, and our newsletter not only deals with the HR legal updates, but also it incorporates health and safety news, and you'll find the details there how you can sign up for it. So if you do have any further health and safety related questions, then Dom's email address is here, so he'll welcome any questions that you may have. And obviously we always appreciate feedback as to our offering and whether there's any further topics or anything that we can do to improve. So we always seek that feedback from our delegates. And lastly, just want to say a huge thank you for all of you that have joined, despite, we had some technical issues today, unfortunately. I hope that that hasn't impacted too much on the delivery of the webinar and you finding out all the useful information. And thank you, Dom, for navigating us through the technical challenges and running a really useful and helpful webinar on mental health in the workplace. So thank you very much to everybody. A copy of the slides will be sent out in due course, and a copy and access to the recording will also be made available. So thank you, everybody.